Welcome into the first ever episode of the Heart of Boston Sports. I'm your host, Jace Andrews, and this channel is based off my love for Boston sports that goes from Celtics to Red Sox to Patriots and Bruins, and I'm happy to start this and talk Boston sports with you 24/7, 365. I want to get this channel to big and bright places, and I hope that you will join me. So, without further ado, let's start off with the Red Sox and them getting a new player today. This is actually a pretty recent development. Happened actually a couple hours ago. The Red Sox added Trayce Thompson to the club's 2025 spring training roster. Now, as a non-roster invite. Now, I think we have to talk about the non-roster invite just to kind of let you know what that exactly means. Basically, he is not a part of the 40-man roster. In baseball, you're allowed a certain amount of people to come that are non-roster invites. Some other examples of that are Marcello, Kristian Campbell, Roman Anthony, guys who are prospects that you could see making the 40-man roster, but are non-roster invites as of now. Now, I think there is a lot to speculate here with Trayce Thompson because the first thing you think when you hear Trayce Thompson is, that's Klay Thompson's brother, right? Yeah, he did play with the Dodgers, play with the White Sox, play with a couple teams, actually. It's been somewhat of a journeyman, and I think Trayce Thompson is an interesting guy to look at just because his stats, well, they don't pop off the board. 212 average, 711 OPS, a 411 slugging, 198 on the hits, and he's played since 2015. Now, seldomly played since 2015. He's kind of been journeying. He didn't play at all last year, to my knowledge, so he's really been just trying to find a home, and I think the big thing that he brings is defense, and the funny thing is, he's an outfielder, which, if there's a place that the Red Sox don't need defensive presence, it's the outfield, because as of right now, you have, I would think, arguably one of the best defensive outfields in the MLB. You have Ceddanne Rafaela in center field. He's one of the fastest guys you'll ever see. You have Jarren Duran technically in left field right now. You have Wilyer Abreu / Roman Anthony in right field. I think this defensively is set. I don't know why you would need Trayce Thompson. However, I do think it's an interesting thing because the Red Sox continue to have interesting storyline developments in their spring training. And we'll get to the Rafi storyline, which is maybe not a good one, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Trayce Thompson is somebody I don't see making the roster. I'll just kind of start with that. He's been a journeyman. He hasn't really stuck in a place, and overall his stats don't pop off the board, and they haven't popped off the board in almost 10 years. In fact, really at 10 years. 2015, he made his debut with the White Sox. He batted .295. He did great. Played with the Dodgers the next year, and average drop, but he was still overall, a pretty solid guy. Got on base and above 300. His slugging was solid. His OPS was above 700. But since then, he's really been doing nothing. He stuck with LA in 2017. He then played with Oakland and Chicago, going back to the White Sox in 2018 as well. He went to the Cubs after that in 2021, and I think this just kind of screams player that will bounce around in spring training, maybe get a minor league deal, but he's not going to play on the roster. I find it a little interesting why the Red Sox brought him in because I don't understand the really thought process behind it. However, he is a defensive presence. He is a guy who could go out there and, make a storyline for himself. Maybe he does do well and you want to bring him up, or you want to sign him to a minor league deal, keep him in AAA as kind of that guy to potentially come up if you have any injuries. If you don't think Roman Anthony is ready and you want to have somebody defensively available, well, you can keep him as well. Now, I don't think he is the guy who makes the 40-man roster. I think the biggest storyline he will have is that he's the brother of Klay Thompson. And no, I've seen the comments on the post. No one has to become Klay Thompson fans. He can stay in Dallas and stay with the team that lost to the Celtics last year in the finals. I know he wasn't there, besides the point. But I just think it's just not going to happen in my mind. I don't see him being any more than a non-roster invite to spring training. At best, he gets a minor league deal with the Red Sox as a defensive measure for any certain injuries or certain things to come up. But I truly don't think that is going to be much more than just a non-roster invite. Now, there are other storylines going on in the Red Sox spring training, and one of them is Rafeal Devers being very unhappy. I say unhappy. He was questioned today about if he would play third base, if he's had talks with Alex Cora or Craig Breslow about not playing third base, about having reps at first, and the reaction was not exactly what Red Sox fans wanted to see. Just take a listen. You can kind of make an opinion for yourself here.
How do you think that's going to work out for you?
No sé, mi posición en la tercera base, no sé qué ¿Qué opinión ellos, cómo opinión no, como te digo, qué va a pasar, sino mi posición es mi tercera base y no me han dicho nada, tuvimos una conversación, pero yo le dejé claro lo que quería y no hemos hablado más.
Yeah, I mean, third base is my position. It's what I've played. You know, I don't know what their plans are. Like, I know we had a conversation. I made it clear kind of what my desires were. And yeah, whatever happens from here, I don't know.
What are those desires to play at third base?
¿Cuál es tu preferencia? O sea, ¿qué tú deseas que pase en términos de tu posición?
Bueno, yo juego tercera base, yo no juego más otra posición, mi posición es tercera, de ahí para allá no sé qué ellos van a decidir, no controlo lo que ellos vayan a hacer, sino mi posición es tercera y es ahí que estoy ready todos los días de dar lo mejor de mí en lo que pueda y ya.
Yeah, no, like I said before, like my position is third base. I don't know how they want to go about it or what they want to do, but I know that that's the position I get ready to play every day. And it's just, you know, it's just my position.
How would you react if they asked you to DH? How would you feel about that?
No.
Can you translate that, please?
How do you feel like the lineup?
That's not exactly what you want to hear or see from your starting third baseman who has been talked about being moved in a position. I don't think Rafe moves from third base. Let me start off with that, but that is not exactly the response I was expecting from Rafeal Devers. And I think this has to be talked about because there is a time where Rafeal Devers will move on from playing third base. That is going to happen in his career. I compare him in some aspects to David Ortiz. I know that's very different. David did not play first for nearly as long as Rafi has played third already in his career. However, David Ortiz played first with the Twins. He came to the Red Sox somewhat as a first baseman, even though he was immediately a DH. And I think Rafi kind of has the same prowess, except he's a better defensive player. Play third base for a little, but he will eventually become a DH. That's just how it's going to go. That's the nature of his career. And in some aspects, I'm a little surprised that he wants to play third base so bad. I've heard the translation of that has not been completely accurate in some ways, and that the translation is a little off in the way that Rafi actually had the certain tone. And again, we can't actually truly know unless you fully speak Spanish without that, and I unfortunately do not. However, I'm trying to learn, obviously for these reasons, but I do think it's interesting to look at and see this as an opportunity for the Red Sox to kind of back off a little bit, let Rafi say, hey, it's your third base. And it is, because if you look at this lineup, I don't understand why there's even a question right now. I understand that, Kristian Campbell could come up, and I expect him to come up. However, he still fits in this lineup. I really am a little concerned at the fact that the Red Sox even mentioned the third base in some aspect, because I'm sure they've talked to Rafeal before this came out to the media, and I'm sure they heard what he said. But the lineup here, it can be made into a couple different things, and Rafi can still play at third base. Let's look at the fielding position, because that's what we're talking about here. Duran will stay in left. That's not going to change. Rafi can stay at third, and Bregman can stay at second. I know there's talks about Kristian Campbell and him being a second baseman. I agree. However, he can also play left field. Wilyer Abreu right now is in right field. If you want, you can keep Roman Anthony down for the time being. Take Wilyer Abreu out right now. You can trade him off for Dylan Cease. Honestly, I think would be a good thing. I know it's only a year, but there's kind of a backlog in the outfield right now. You move Duran to right. You play Kristian Campbell on left. It's just a matter of in terms of who you think is better. Do you think Roman Anthony should be up? Do you think Kristian Campbell should be up? Do you think both of them should be up? That's where the backlog kind of comes into play, because third base is Rafi's position. He's not going to play first base. I don't think he will ever play first base. And the fact that they're asking if he's going to take reps is just not going to happen. I think that Tristan Casas had a very interesting offseason. I really didn't want the Red Sox to trade him. I didn't like that he was in talks for Luis Castillo at all. I don't think he is really valued to the extent that he should be valued. I think he is an all-star first baseman that can really provide some power at the 5 or 4 slot, whatever you want to put him at. I don't think that Rafi's going to move there. I think Casas has that position locked up. And I don't mind him playing third. I know Kristian Campbell wants to come up. I know I want him up. But there has been injury problems in this infield before. And guess what? Shortstop is one of those positions. And I truly think Alex Bregman could play shortstop. You can move Alex to short. You can make Kristian Campbell a second baseman. That's not to say I hope Trevor Story gets injured. I want him to play because he is the best defensive infielder we have. Now, he has been injured the past 2 years. There is probability with his age that he could get injured again. I don't think it should be made this big of a deal about Rafi moving off third base, but I did not like the way he kind of talked about that. And that's really where I kind of want to leave it, because I don't know what will happen. I don't know if Red Sox are going to keep the conversation going. In my mind, this is something that you bring up to him in the year. You let spring training play out. You don't have the thing going on. I know we saw Alex Bregman today playing third base, which, again, that's where he played all previous years in Houston. So just let him play there right now for, getting his warm-ups up, and, Kristian Campbell playing at second. I don't think Rafi needs to take that many reps at third base anyways. I know he's not the greatest defensive third baseman, but he's got it down for a lot of plays, so that's what matters to me. Now, I do want to talk about Kristian Campbell because we got our first look at him today, and he was playing second base. I kind of have to look at this from an outside perspective of Kristian Campbell is playing third base today in spring training, and Alex Bregman is playing third base today in spring training. So, Kristian at second, Alex at third. It's also the first day of spring training. We're making a big deal about the first day that everybody is at camp, because everybody has now officially reported. And Cedane and Rafeal was the last one, I think, yesterday, but they're all officially there, and I think we're making a big deal over really nothing. I think this will all die over, and I wish I had the tweet, but Jerry Carabas also mentioned this, saying that this will all blow over eventually. It's going to just kind of die off. No one's going to really remember the time that Rafi wasn't happy. And, I mean, again, Rafi wasn't happy last year, and it worked out for the Red Sox. He expressed unhappiness about this club's willingness, or rather unwillingness, to spend money. And, well, they spent money this offseason. They got Alex Bregman. So I think that it could work out in a positive way, but I don't think we should all be crying and worrying about the Rafeal Devers situation. Now, looking at Kristian Campbell, I do think he should be up. I think of him and Roman Anthony, I think Kristian Campbell has a better potential of being up in the first day, because he can play more positions. I think that's the ultimate thing. However, I do think Roman Anthony deserves to be up, and that can be a topic for another video, but Kristian Campbell has succeeded at every single level he has played at. From literally not even 2 years ago at Georgia Tech, where he was batting .376, to last year in AAA, where he was batting .286, and that was one of his lowest batting averages. 286 is one of your lowest batting averages since high school is just absurd. I think he can succeed day one in the MLB. I don't think that is a very, outlandish thing to say. And even last year in the AA level, where he spent the most time, 56 games, he batted .362. 362, are you kidding me? Like, it's just incredible the way this guy has been able to perform day in, day out at every single level, and he deserves a spot on the starting 40-man roster. Now, does that mean he's going to play every day? No. Should he play every day? Probably. I think he needs to get his bearings straight, and I think that's a conversation with Kristian Campbell and Alex Cora. What does a lineup look like every day? Is Will Abreu going to play every day? Are you going to be able to play Kristian Campbell in left field when he can't play second base? Are you going to be able to DH Rafi every now and then at least? I mean, he can keep third base, but are you going to be able to DH him every now and then? So that's kind of the idea that I'm looking at here. I do think Kristian Campbell deserves to be up and deserves to be playing on the roster. I think Roman Anthony does as well. Marcello is a different conversation. I think he comes up more in the post-All-Star break. I would be hard-pressed to say he doesn't make it up before the September deadline, of where you get that extra year of eligibility, or control rather, but I honestly wouldn't mind if they did that, just because the infield is stacked, and you only need May or if there's an injury, so I would honestly wait until September just so you get that extra year of control for Marcello, because you have Trevor Story's contract expiring here in 3 years. Alex Bregman technically signed a 3-year deal, although we are forgetting he could opt out at the end of this season, and this whole third base conundrum could be really expired by next year, and Rafi, it could mean nothing. So if Alex Bregman goes full 2019 or 2020, Alex Bregman hits 40 bombs, bats over 300, I don't know if he'll stay for $40 million a year. That's a lot of money. It is. But if he's doing that in 1 year at Boston, who's to say he might not go try and make money somewhere else? And there's your third base problem solved. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No, I think Alex Bregman is locked in at least for 2 years, but he can opt out. That is not a known thing. Not a thing that can't happen. And Trevor Story, once again, with his 3 years coming up, Marcello, if you can get him an extra year of control, you're going to have then 4 full years of him that you have under control. Or you will have arbitration, but that's besides the point. You have control of him for 4 years without Trevor Story in the picture. He's your starting shortstop there for those 4 years. And I think the World Series window that opened this year could continue all the way through, 2030 at that point. So I think there's a question to be had about Kristian Campbell, Roman Anthony, Marcello, who makes it up when they make it up. But they will all be on this roster by the time playoffs come around, because guess what? The Red Sox will be making the playoffs. Now, transitioning topics here, we've talked a lot about Red Sox today, and while that's the team that is really the most active right now with the NBA on All-Star break, the Patriots obviously kind of just waiting for that draft pick, and the Bruins, well, I'm going to be quite honest with you, the Bruins are one of the least knowledgeable teams I have on them. However, they aren't doing the hottest that they have been in the recent years, and they've brought me some pain in the past couple of years. I'll just say that. And so I have honestly not watched them as much this year just because of the pain that I felt the last 2 seasons, and especially in the playoffs. I am now feeling more, as you can see them right there, the 6th in the Atlantic, 60 points. Again, it's not a thing to come over, but besides the point, let's talk about the NBA All-Star Game this weekend and the Celtics, as the Celtics are obviously doing great. But I think an interesting topic over the All-Star break is how the All-Star Game has declined, and what would happen if it was brought to Boston. Well, Jaylen Brown had his own opinion on that.
All-Star Game in Boston. It hasn't been since 1964.
That would be great. That would be awesome. I think the city is equipped for it. I think the fans, you got the craziest fans in the world in Boston, so I'm sure that they would enjoy it. It kind of seemed like it was a little empty in here tonight. I don't think in Boston that would happen. So yeah, if we bring the All-Star Game in Boston, I would love to be there, and I would love to participate. I think that'd be great for the game.
I think that's an interesting take. I think it's true. I think if you're watching this channel, you love Boston sports, you maybe live in Boston, and you know that the biggest sports-loving city in the world is Boston. There is no question about it. I don't want to hear any Philly fans. I don't want to hear any New York people saying it. Boston is the biggest sports city, and it has been that way for, I would say, since the turn of the century. And I do think he has a good point. If the All-Star Game was in Boston, I think it would be a little louder. I think more probably because you're going to have more All-Stars. You're going to have Jaylen Brown. You're going to have Jason Tatum, who play together in this All-Star Game, funny enough. But again, it's just an interesting take because the NBA All-Star Game has just not been going well for the past 5 years or so, and it's not going anywhere in terms of getting better in the next 3 years, in my opinion. I think next year could be interesting. It's in Los Angeles in the Clippers Intuit Dome, which is a brand new stadium. It's where all the celebrities live. I think it'll be a fun and packed house. And again, the way that Mac McClung has broken out and shown the world about the dunk contest, I think it would be fun to see maybe some other athletes getting in there. I know Giannis tweeted out saying he might join if Ja Morant joins, and that would be a fun dunk contest if you had Mac McClung, a 3-time champion, going up against Giannis Antetokounmpo and Ja Morant. However, it's just not going to change in the next couple years with the All-Star Game or the Skills Challenge. The dunk contest will forever be the only thing that gets posted on social media, the only thing that people care about. Especially when the NHL this year had a literal fight in their All-Star Game. They had a literal fight in their, I guess it was technically the Nations Game, whatever you want to call it. But still, it was an exhibition game, and there was a fight between American and Canadians. You're not going to compete with that, especially when you go to 2027, you're going to Phoenix. You're going to Phoenix. That's just not going to be a big selling venue, in my opinion, especially with the Suns not being, a well-endowed team, a big team that you're going to see in terms of getting a lot of fans. It's just not going to happen. And so, in my mind, I think they should bring the NBA All-Star Game to Boston because, first of all, I'd like to go. Second of all, I do think it would bring a little bit of fun back, especially if you got some dunk contests. But I do think you kind of got to compare it to the MLB Home Run Derby, and you should start making it to where you have at least a couple guys from the home team putting in there. I don't know. There's a couple ideas the NBA could do, but overall, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon. Now, before I do let you go today, first of all, I want to say thank you for watching, and I wanted to give you a little bit more insight into me and why I started this channel. So first of all, I was a Make-A-Wish kid. Yes, I know, kind of hard to tell, but I grew up watching Dustin Pedroia. I grew up watching the Patriots, and, well, I got my Make-A-Wish granted back in 2014 to go meet Dustin Pedroia, to go be a Red Sox player for a day, and it was on ESPN's My Wish. And again, this is not saying of anything to brag or anything. It's just my why. It's my why because I've always been a big Boston sports fan, but going to Fenway Park, getting to see Dustin Pedroia, talk with Dustin Pedroia, have my favorite player, my idol, be talking to me, it gave me a new outlook on life, and I got to really see what this whole world could be like in the world of Boston sports. And it's grown. I've gotten to go to the Patriots facility. I've gotten to see Patriots games. I've gotten to go to Celtics. I've gotten to go to Celtics games. I've gotten to keep a good relationship with Dustin Pedroia. And most importantly, I've gotten to grow my love for sports to a point where I am working in sports. I am a sports broadcaster right now. I have covered multiple Division I athletic events, including the Sugar Bowl with Baylor University. I got to broadcast a Division I basketball game for Oklahoma State University. I want to say that and sit here that this is the reason why you should listen to me, but ultimately it's just my reason why I started this channel. I want to talk Boston sports. I want to have an outlet to go and have fun and really just chop it up with some Boston fans and show that, an entire city can be like an entire sports fan base can be all with the same city, and that's the biggest place is going to be in Boston. So I'm excited to see where this channel goes. I've got a mic on the way to hopefully fix the audio to be a little better. I've got hopefully a webcam coming, and hopefully we'll get a green screen. We'll get some cool and more and better graphics as we go along. Kind of improvising right there with the Red Sox logo behind me. That's all I got for right now. But again, I'm going to do my best to make sure this channel is unequivocally Boston sports, love Boston sports, and hopefully I can give you some good analysis as well with some news and updates. So I do appreciate your time, and if you've made it this far, I do want to say thank you, and make sure to hit that subscribe button down below because there's just going to be more and more videos coming your way. This is just the beginning, and I hope you're along for me for the ride because, man, I love Boston sports, and I love to talk about it, and hopefully this channel can do a lot of good things. So I appreciate your time, and for now, go Red Sox, go Celtics, go Patriots, go Bruins, and peace out.